Her ex-mother-in-law sent a posse of church ladies to harass her teenage daughter in public. She was about to make every single one of them regret it. This story is about a mother, just trying to hold her family together after an unthinkable tragedy. Her husband had died in an accident the year before, and the grief was still raw for her and her 2 teenage daughters. But their grief was complicated, twisted up with betrayal. Because before he died, she discovered he was cheating. He had a whole other family, and when he and his affair partner both died, they left 2 little boys behind. Her husband's parents, her ex-in-laws, have been making her life a living nightmare ever since. They're trying to get custody of her daughters. They're trying to move into her house. And they just won't stop. It all came to a head at the weekend farmers market. It was supposed to be a special day. It was her youngest daughter's birthday, and to celebrate, she gave her a budget and set her loose to buy all the sweets and chocolates her heart desired. It was a small moment of joy in a year full of pain. After about an hour, a knot of worry started to form in her stomach. And just as she was about to pull out her phone, it rang. It was her daughter. She was crying, barely able to get the words out, saying that some weird people had her cornered. The mother and her older daughter ran. They found the birthday girl huddled against a stall, surrounded by 6 older women. They were berating her, lecturing this 15-year-old child, in the middle of a crowded market, for being un-Christian. Why? For refusing to spend time with her paternal grandparents. For not wanting to be a good big sister to her poor orphaned baby brothers. Her daughters were the ones who found out about the affair. About the babies. The trauma is something they are working through every single day with a therapist. And these strangers were throwing it in her face. The mother didn't hesitate. She pushed through the circle of women, putting herself directly between them and her child. She told her eldest daughter to grab the things her sister had picked out, pay for them, and go straight to the car. Then, she turned, and she recognized some of them. They were from her ex-in-law's church. She let them have it. She tore into them with a fury only a mother can have. But they just doubled down. They told her she was the worst of all. For refusing to obey her ex-in-laws, like a good Christian wife. The sheer audacity of it was sickening. The screaming got louder and louder until market security came and asked all of them to leave. She met her girls at the car, but the women followed her, like a pack of vultures, still muttering their judgments. She bundled her crying children into the car and peeled out of there. That night, after her daughters were finally asleep, she went online. She needed to understand what had just happened. She reached out to a member of that church she was still on good terms with and told him everything. He was horrified, and he apologized profusely. And then, he told her what was going on. Her ex-mother-in-law had written a masterpiece of fiction in the church's private group. A massive, sprawling post about how horrible she and her daughters are. How they were leaving the poor, elderly in-laws homeless and penniless. This was a particularly nasty lie, because her ex-husband's will had named his parents as the beneficiaries of his personal bank account and his life insurance. They weren't penniless. They were loaded. The post went on, crying about how her granddaughters won't even speak to them. And then came the biggest lie of all. The mother-in-law accused them of being the reason she lost her grandsons. The 2 little boys from the affair were now living with distant relatives. She had crafted the perfect sob story. And of course, the more extreme members of the church were eating it up, showering her with love and support. But here's where the story takes a turn. The mother-in-law had been clever. She knew she couldn't mention the affair, because this church, for all its faults, has one small saving grace. They are incredibly, unshakably strict about cheating. It is the ultimate sin in their eyes, for a husband or wife. So how did she explain the 2 little boys? Simple. She lied. She told everyone the other woman was their surrogate, because our storyteller was supposedly unable to have more children. Then, she claimed the reason she didn't want the babies was because they were boys. It was a disgusting, twisted accusation. And it was the final straw. She decided it was time to clean up this mess. She was in the middle of divorcing her husband when he died, which meant she had everything. All the evidence she needed to burn their lies to the ground. And since the divorce was never finalized, there were no legal ramifications for releasing it. The next day, she took the day off work. She went to a print shop with a hard drive full of files. Copies of delightful pictures of her ex cheating. His text conversations with his affair partner. The texts with his own parents, where he confessed to the affair and they offered him their full support. Messages from her ex-in-laws harassing her about the divorce. And then, the coup de grace. All the emails and text messages of them bullying her teenage daughters about their baby brothers. In one of them, sent just 2 days after their own son had died, they called their granddaughters bastards and told them it was their fault their father was dead, because they were the ones who told their mother about the affair. She paid extra. She had everything printed on beautiful, high-quality, glossy paper. When she got home, she sat down for hours and assembled a set of delightfully personalized binders. She made them look exactly like the little prayer song packets the church provides for the congregation to sing hymns. On the cover, a simple, elegant cross. But when you opened it, the first thing you saw was a crystal-clear photo of her ex-husband and his side piece, making out in their own living room. Underneath, she had typed a simple caption: the love story of ex-husband's name and affair partner's name. She took the binders to the church right before the Sunday service. There's a little desk in the back where they keep stacks of the songbooks for people who forget to bring their own. No one ever checks them. She just slipped her special editions right into the pile. And then, she left. The gossip mill was faster and harsher than she could have ever imagined. The names her ex-husband and his affair partner were being called in that Facebook group were so vile the pastor himself had to step in and try to restore some semblance of order. People were furious with her ex-in-laws for what they had done to her daughters. But here's the part that makes you laugh, just because it's so absurd. In their eyes, she was still in the wrong for starting the divorce in the first place. But, they concluded, it was understandable that she failed in her duties after the shock, and that she would possibly one day return to the light, unlike her cheating husband and his Jezebel. She even got 2 apology letters in the mail for her girls. And an invitation to join the church for support. As for her ex-in-laws? They were shamed right out of the church they had belonged to for decades. The shunning was absolute. Her ex-mother-in-law posted on her own wall about how alienated she feels, how nobody cares for the elderly anymore. How she wished her great son was still alive because he would have taken care of them. With what money is anyone's guess. She was always the breadwinner. This was a calculated act of social annihilation, delivered with the precision of a surgeon. She didn't just expose a lie. She used their own moral code, their own community, as the weapon. They built their reputation on piety and judgment, and she simply held up a mirror and let them destroy themselves. So here's the question I leave you with. When someone uses their church to attack your children and destroy your name, is it fair game to use their own rules to tear them down in front of everyone? Or did she go too far by orchestrating such a public and permanent humiliation?